The NBA season is fast approaching, but not before another blockbuster deal sent the league into a frenzy. Just a few days from all 30 teams reporting to training camp, the New York Knicks solved their center problem by acquiring four-time All-Star Karl-Anthony Towns in a late-night deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves. While the deal sends former All-NBA forward Julius Randle and guard Donte DiVincenzo to the West contender, it signals the Knicks are doubling down on their championship pursuit. The way the deal went down, the Knicks get Karl-Anthony Towns, Minnesota gets guard Donte DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and a 25 first-round pick via Detroit, top 13 protected. Dealing Towns for two players who were starters is a plus for Minnesota in this regard. Now, Timberwolves coach Chris Finch might struggle to find minutes for everyone on the perimeter, but that's a good problem to have at the start of training camp. DiVincenzo was one of the league's biggest success stories last season. Signed to a bargain 4-year $50 million deal using the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. And he was arguably New York's second best player behind All-NBA pick Jalen Brunson over the second half of the season. With Randle and OG Anunoby missing time due to injury, DiVincenzo averaged 19 points a game after the All-Star break. His 4.5 three-pointers per game ranked second in the NBA during that span, only behind Luka Donte. The Timberwolves probably can't count on DiVincenzo shooting the ball that well. DiVincenzo also shot 40% in the previous season, and his volume of 10.8 attempts per 36 minutes was way up. Still, DiVincenzo is a proven starter signed through his prime for a reserve-level contract. And alongside Sixth Man of the Year award winner Naz Reid and the Kill Alexander Walker, Minnesota now has perhaps the NBA's best bench. The team also won't need to rely on rookies Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. to play heavy minutes right away. But Finch again faces the challenge of fitting together awkward pieces in the front court. Towns' shooting made his partnership with Rudy Gobert work, and although Randle has been a frequent three-point shooter, shooting 8 three-point attempts a game in 2022-2023, before dropping back to 5.5 last season, 2021 season was the only time he's hit them at a league average rate. Randle's 30% usage rate is similar to Towns' 27%. But Randle gets there in a different way. According to the analysis of tracking data from NBA Advanced Stats, Randle possessed the ball 21% of the time the Knicks were on offense last season, compared with 12% with Towns in Minnesota. Playing alongside both a traditional point guard in Mike Conley and a playmaking wing in Anthony Edwards, Randle won't have as much opportunity to isolate as a starter. The obvious solution is to stagger Randle's minutes with Edwards as much as possible, letting him match up against second units while playing alongside floor spacing big man Naz Reid. The ability to bring Reid for Randle or go smaller units with DiVincenzo replacing him gives Finch a variety of options. The financial implications are also huge. The Timberwolves' tax bill was projected at more than $100 million, and dealing Towns for two players who combined to make $8.8 million less cuts at least $40 million off that total. With potential extension talks looming with both Gobert and Randle, shedding Towns' supermax salary also adds flexibility when it comes to dealing Alexander Walker and Reid, as all four players could become unrestricted free agents next summer. Additionally, acquiring a tradable first-round pick gives Minnesota a potentially valuable asset. That pick sees its protections go from top 13 this season to top 11 in 2026 and top 9 in 2027. It's possible Detroit will bottom out again and never send the pick, in which case Minnesota would only get the Pistons' 2027 second rounder. A more likely scenario is Detroit tries to make a move up in the standings as protections diminish, potentially giving the Timberwolves a valuable trade chip during Edwards' prime. Trading Towns was a predictable outcome when Minnesota acquired Gobert 2 summers ago. With a supermax extension and 30% max extension for Edwards both coming on the books, the Timberwolves' payroll was certain to balloon to the point where keeping the core that reached the Western Conference Finals last year wasn't financially viable. Now, the Knicks. This move pushes the gas pedal on the timetable to contend. Towns fills a gaping hole for New York, which lost Isaiah Hartenstein to the Oklahoma City Thunder in free agency on a deal the Knicks couldn't possibly have matched, and won't have Mitchell Robinson to start the year following offseason ankle surgery. With Robinson out, Towns is undoubtedly an enormous upgrade at center to either Precious Achiuwa or Jericho Sims. He gives Coach Tom Thibodeau 5-out spacing while freeing a spot in the team's closing five for Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart to all finish games together alongside Towns or Brunson. The most important question here is how Towns will hold up as a primary rim defender in Thibodeau's scheme. That wasn't exactly his role when he played for Thibodeau in Minnesota. Gorgui Dieng started alongside Towns in 2016-2017, followed by combo big and Thibodeau's favorite, Todd Gibson, the next two seasons. Thibodeau was fired midway through the 2018-2019, his third season with the team. Towns saw opponents shoot 67% in the restricted area. According to Second Spectrum's tracking data, the last time he was a full-time center was in the 2021-22 season prior to the Gobert trade. By comparison, players shot 62% against Robinson last season and 57% against Hartenstein, one of the league's better rim protectors. When Robinson returns, it's possible Thibodeau can play Robinson and Towns together, but given the state of the depth chart and Robinson's difficulty staying on the court, he has played more than 1,600 minutes in a season, only once. Towns will see a significant time at center. That should supercharge the Knicks' offense. The Brunson-Towns and pick and roll figures to be difficult to stop. Switching offers both players mismatches and trapping Brunson, something we saw frequently when New York was short-handed last season, risks giving Towns an open pick and pop three or letting him operate with a 4-on-3 offensive advantage. New York does inherit some of Minnesota's depth issues. Miles McBride is now the Knicks' only reliable backup on the perimeter, and this trade seems to be a bet on McBride maintaining the large off-ball role he played in the 2024 playoffs, where he averaged 26.5 minutes after playing just 19.5 per game during the regular season. Beyond that, the Knicks have Cameron Payne and second-round pick Tyler Kolek at point guard and might need to give rotation minutes whoever makes the team out of training camp between Marcus Morris, Chuma Okeke, and Landry Shamet. Down the road, adding Towns' salary could push New York into the second apron in the 25-26 season. The Knicks currently have $194 million in salary committed to 9 players, leaving them less than $14 million to fill out the final 5 spots. To avoid exceeding the second apron, New York will have to rely heavily on minimum salary pickups. How quickly the Knicks reach the second apron is crucial because after 3 years in the apron, the new NBA collective bargaining agreement sends the team's future first-round pick to the end of the round. Most teams are likely looking at 2-year stretches above the apron to avoid that harsh penalty, and New York wants to put that off as long as possible because the Eastern Conference rival Boston Celtics are already starting their second apron clock. There are reasonable arguments as to whether adding Towns now is worth the greater financial limitations down the road. This trade leans slightly in their favor, given Boston might not be as strong as a favorite due to health this season. The Charlotte Hornets will be included in this trade, per ESPN's Tim Bontemps, as the third team because both the Knicks and the Timberwolves are over the first apron and therefore capped at that point if they take in more salary in a trade than they send out. To avoid that, New York will send Charlotte at least $8.8 million in salary. Crucially, the Knicks will also need to send out at least one non-minimum salary in order to be able to reach the required 14 players on the roster without exceeding the second apron. New York is hard capped at the second apron due to aggregating salaries in the Bridges trade. The Knicks must fill at least one roster spot, converting one of their 2 second-round picks on 2-way contracts, Ariel Hukporti and Kevin McCullough Jr., to a full NBA contract. If you like content like this, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And please continue to listen to the insights.